noite, pessoal. Bom, eu estava falando para o Barry antes, e eu vou começar em português, depois a gente vai ter que ir para o inglês, né? Eu estava falando para o Barry antes que é uma honra enorme, né, estar com ele aqui. Quando eu era guri, eu jogava Top Gear até gastar meus dedos e sangrar, né? E aí o cara tá com o cara da trilha, ele talvez não saiba porque ainda não disse isso pra ele, pelo menos em inglês não, depois eu vou falar, que ele foi um dos caras que foi responsáveis por eu acabar virando um cara que trabalha com áudio, um professor de áudio, etc., né, pro curso de videogame. Então é uma imensa honra estar com o Barry aqui, né, e poder conversar com ele. A ideia do nosso bate-papo aqui vai ser assim: eu vou conduzir uma entrevista com ele por algum tempo, né? A gente vai ver ainda o tempo que vai ser isso aí, né? E depois a gente vai abrir para vocês perguntarem coisas também. Então nós vamos ter dois momentos. Como eu falei antes, nós vamos tentar fazer a entrevista em inglês, né? E se a galera se complicar muito, a gente começa a dar umas traduzidas no meio aí para ajudar um pouco, ok? Beleza. Então, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Barry Leitch.
Hi. Thank you very much. I'm sure you guys all know, I wrote the music for Top Gear and Horizon Chase. I've worked as a video game composer for over 30 years. As far as I know, there's only one or two other guys that have done it that long. Most of us just give up after a while, go find a normal job. But we're here tonight and happy to answer questions and talk about how I got started in doing this stuff. I'm sure you guys are all just starting your careers out, going through college. A lot of the same stuff I went through will apply to you in your quest to get further in careers. Does everybody here speak English? Yeah? Okay. That's good news.
Good news. Let's start with the very beginning. I think you were talking me about your 14, 15 years with first video game audio productions.
Yeah. Okay, so back in 1982, 83, I got my first computer. I got pictures and everything.
He has pictures.
So the first computer I got was a Sinclair ZX81. It had 1 kilobyte of RAM, and it had a 16 kilobyte RAM pack, which was great until you touched the keyboard, and then the connection would disconnect and it would crash the computer. But it didn't have any sound, and that sucked. And do you want to see a game for it? This is what games were like on the ZX81. And we thought that was awesome. How much fun does that look like?
It's like a river raid.
So of course then came along the ZX Spectrum, which had color. Color was awesome. And it had sound too. And here's an example. This was the biggest selling game of the ZX Spectrum. This sold so many computers. It was partly why everybody in Britain had one of these. Every school kid had one. And you're going to love the music. So as you can see, very exciting stuff. And the game only had like 20 levels, and some of them were really hard. In fact, I think some of them were impossible. So you just give up and stop playing. Also, was very popular was the BBC Model B. Every school had one of these. No kids had them unless their parents were really rich. And these were quite powerful computers. I mean, I think it was like a 4 megahertz core or something. But it had sound as well. It had 3 channel sound. You could play 3 notes at any time. See, there's music and sound effects playing this.
It has outline too.
So around this time, everybody that I knew that had a computer Spectrum or that, they would go to a computer club every week, and you would take games and copy your games, swap them with your friends, and people started, because there was only so many games being released every week, and you wanted to get the latest games, so you would start to make demos. So you'd put a piece of music on the computer, so you had something to trade with the next guy. So here, I'll give you my demo, you give me the latest games.
Oh, sure.
You know? So here, I'll play you a demo. I really like this piece of music. This was on the BBC.
3 channels.
Only 3 notes at any time. Nice tune, right? So I heard that, I'm thinking, music on computers, this is pretty cool. I mean, I can't do it. And hardly anybody can do it. You'd have to learn a program and do all that stuff. But it was interesting. And then along came this computer, and this changed everything. The Commodore 64. Anybody here have one? You have one?
I was too poor.
Too poor. Brian had one.
Brian has one.
So the C64 was awesome. Now, the C64 had a synthesizer chip in it, which meant you could create sounds using the hardware on the chip. And depending on the code, the music driver you had, you had to write your own music playback routine in machine code, which is a huge entry-level barrier. You know, you can't just pick one up and put music on it.
You have to program itself.
Yeah, you have to have a music driver that can play stuff. And it also has to be fast enough that the game can still run in the background. So this is when we first started to see people become professional game composers. Up until that point, nobody was a game composer, they were just a composer. People used to have to go to a recording studio to make music. You had to have friends that could play instruments, rent the studio, and record music. And it was very expensive and time consuming. But then with the computer, you could do it all at home. And this was mind-blowing, incredible. So, let me play you, I'll play some music from 3 different composers on the Commodore 64. Now these guys all had their own unique music playback routine, and you can hear how that affected their music. So this first one was Rob Hubbard. Now when I heard this guy's music, I was just blown away. And I phoned him up straight away. He put out a demo that had his phone number on it. So if you can imagine having a 14-year-old Scottish kid phoning you up going, "Oh my God, your music's incredible! How did you do it?" That was pretty much my modus operandi.
Did you act at college?
Sorry.
I got to deal with cameras. Sorry. Did you act college?
Yeah, I called him.
14 years old.
14 years old.
Awesome.
Poor guy. I felt so bad because I would phone him every day. I was so determined. This was mine.
It's like a kid calling John Carmack and saying, "I want to be a game designer."
Yeah.
Or something like that. Awesome. Impressive.
I was just, when I heard this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to write music for games, and I didn't want anything to stop me. You know, you get focused on things sometimes too much. So I'll play this music. This is quite a long piece of music. I'd love to play the whole thing. Up. No, it's good music. No. This is the introduction. It's an effect. And you can see all the waveforms, the square waveforms. See the width of the square waveforms. That's pulse width modulation. The drums sound in a wheel, like a violin. It's exciting, right? Guess it's a cool piece of music.
Awesome.
So we'll switch to one of the other composers. Find the close button. Comic Bakery by Martin Galway. I actually saw him a couple of weeks ago. He's still doing good.
This bass is so heavy metal.
Wait to hear the lead voice. It's like a lead guitar.
Yeah.
It conveys like an emotion to the piece and totally different synthesized sounds to the last piece because of the music driver. You get the idea of that. So, very inspirational. 14-year-old me. Fuck yeah, I'm gonna do that.
Until this day, you aren't have music background,
No.
composing or playing
No.
instruments. Just a lot of will.
My music teacher at school said I couldn't take the music class because I couldn't play an instrument well enough. Fuck you, man, you'll see one day.
Let's take a picture with you in Video Games Live.
Send it to him. So, from there, I decided, well, obviously, I want to make some music. Now, I've got a video of, this is the only music driver that was available to me at the time. It was a commercial music package, probably one of the first ones ever made. And it's got some music in it. The music in it isn't mine, but it's the only video I could find of it on YouTube. Pretty shitty, right? But you could go through it in step time, put in your notes, and your drum sounds and bass line and stuff. Yeah, very much like a 909, step sequence. So, then all I had to do, I knew that my success was just right ahead of me, just right round the corner, but all I had to do was write a piece of music. Which, if you've never written a piece of music before, it's a little difficult. So I get back on the phone to Rob Hubbard and Martin Galway, and I'm like, so how do you write a piece of music? How do you guys write a piece of music? And they're like, God, kid, just
Another kid, it must be Thursday.
But Rob Hubbard wasn't just getting phone calls from me, he was getting phone calls from kids all across the world phoning him. Because these demos, everybody took them to the next computer club. All these kids that want to do music suddenly phoning the poor guy. So he's like, you know what, you just start with a bass line or something, add some drums, and then work out a melody or something. I could play the very first piece of music I wrote, but it's really not good. So what I'll do is I'll show you, I'll play you the second piece of music I wrote, because over the next several months, me and my buddy, I had a buddy that could draw artwork. We made a whole bunch of demos for the Commodore 64, and we'd take them to the computer club each week and trade them for the latest games. And we made all these demos, and we'd send them to the companies and try and get them to buy into buying a piece of artwork or a piece of music and stuff. So I'll show you this. This plays for a couple of minutes. Where is it? C64 demos. Just so you know, 14-year-old me would have loved to know that I'm sitting in a room with 100 people watching my C64 demos. We spent ages doing that. But as you can see, that's what we did. We created a shit ton of demos.
The very first demo reel.
Very first demo reel.
Unbelievable. And
Except you had to load each part separately and play it.
oh, I see.
And
I
then
see.
close it
The
and
demo
restart
reel
it.
is compiled right now.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. And after that, what happened? Somebody called?
Yeah, after writing all those demos, of course, I sent the demos to all the game companies, every game company in the country. And then I called them all up and said, hey, my music's awesome, you guys should buy some of my music. They said, yeah, kid, no, we're not going to buy your music. So I wrote more music and I sent it to them again, I phoned them all again. I said, guys, you really need to listen to my new tunes, they're much better than my old tunes. They're like, yeah, no, we don't really want music. I kept pestering, I kept calling every single one of them. And one day, one of them phoned me back. He said, one of these tunes you've written, I kind of like it. I think we want to use it in our game. I'm like, really? So, and that's how it started. They wanted to buy my piece of music, and then the phone bill came in. We agreed on a price of like £150 for a piece of music, and then the phone bill came in. And because I called the phone company so much, the phone bill was like £300, which is over 1,000 real.
Totally unworth it.
Yeah. My dad hit the fucking roof. He went mental. And the day that check came in through the letterbox, before it even hit the floor, he had it in his hand.
You even see that you didn't even see the check.
That was it. It was gone.
Unbelievable.
But I got my first game soundtrack done. And then I was so excited. I'm now officially a fucking game composer, you know? This is incredible, groundbreaking for me. I'm 15, for God's sake, at this point. And then the magazine came out. Every month in Britain, there was a magazine called Zap 64, which reviewed every single game that came out, and they'd give it a rating for the gameplay, the graphics, the sound, and overall. And so when it came out with the review of that first game, Icups is what it was called, ICUPS. Terrible game, terrible soundtrack. But the magazine reviewed it and they gave the sound 51%, which was just like a knife through my heart. I thought I was gonna die.
Oh God, it's not a blockbuster.
No. My career was over. So I'm thinking, maybe I shouldn't be a game composer. Maybe I should do something else. And my parents said, yeah, you really shouldn't be a game composer. It's stupid.
It's a relief for them.
Yeah. So I took a job as an apprentice engineer for Rolls-Royce, making airplane engines. So for 6 months I'm learning how to file metal, bend metal, weld metal, move metal around. It was just hellish. And after 6 months I'm like, no, this isn't for me. So I took a job at a computer training course. But because we'd done all this stuff with the computers for the last 2 years, this 2-year training course took me 6 months to go through. And after 6 months, I'd done everything that they could teach you. So they're like, yeah, you need to leave. We don't want you here anymore. You're just disrupting people.
So you were starting to make some mess in the classroom?
Yeah,
Please don't.
So by that point, some of my buddies had started making another video game themselves. And actually, you know what I forgot to show you? I was going to show you.
You will talk about the van story?
No. It was the review for Icups. There it is, sound 51%.
Oh, crap.
Oh, it was brutal.
Another page you have to show up on Video Games Live. Look, 51%. 300 people, 3,000 people behind me. You suck, journalists.
Yeah, never believe the journalists. So my buddies were making a video game, and I said, you know what, I'd love to do the music for it, but you guys, you've really got to write me a music driver or something. Got to help me out here, because using that other music driver, it was the music driver's fault why I only got 51%. I can only do as good as the tools I've got, you know. And he said, all right, I'll write you a music driver. So he wrote a music driver, and I wrote the music, and it was released, and 81% for sound. Yes, I'm
So
back in the
much
game.
better. That's what I'm talking about.
So after that, I was. Are you guys all familiar with Horizon Chase? Have you all played it? You all saw the wedding proposal in there? Okay. So it was around about that time I kind of discovered girls, and that was when I dated Karen, my now wife. So there was some time off from computer stuff. And then towards the end of the year, one of the guys from the computer club that I went to, he says, yeah, I've got a guy coming to town to interview me. He was a programmer. He's like, they're going to interview me for a programmer's job. They're going to open an office in Glasgow. So I was like, oh, see if he needs a musician. And my other buddy, he's like, well, ask if he needs an artist as well. So we were all like, yeah, this sounds, you get a real job doing this. And sure enough, the guy opened a little office in Glasgow, and he hired me and my buddy that did all the demos. And so me and my buddy, being 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds by then, we moved into the office. We had a place we could take girls and drink alcohol and get into trouble. And so we started working for this company, but it became pretty apparent pretty quick. We didn't have email, there's no internet back then, of course. So we had to work on stuff and then post discs all the way down to the company's head office in Portsmouth.
It's about 90s, this or?
This is 1980, the end of 1987, beginning of 1980.
Before the internet.
Yeah, before internet.
UFI.
In the dark ages. So, just after the turn of the year, the company decided this isn't working, posting discs up and down. You guys need to come down to Portsmouth if you want to keep working for us. So my buddy didn't want to go, but I want to keep being a game musician, so I went straight down to Portsmouth, moved down there, lived in the boss's house. All kinds of strange skinheads and thugs showing up at the front door. It's kind of terrifying. For a young kid. You know?
It's like a 8mm movie or something like that.
And of course, they started to run out of money. So like any good businessman, he found an investor. And it was a dodgy Iranian guy who owned a kebab shop who had a couple of grand spare. So he invested in the game company and became part owner in a video game company. He thought he was being really groundbreaking at the time. But pretty soon, after a couple of weeks, the money ran out again and we weren't getting paid, you know. We were eating ramen noodles and stuff. By then, we had moved into, the kebab shop owner also had some rental apartments. So he moved us in there. So he didn't have to pay us anymore because we could still live and work.
Like a slave work or something. You eat, you live, and you develop games.
So there was no escape from that. I mean, and after a while, we got tired having no money. There was a horrible day where I gathered everybody together and we all went into the office and said, look, we need to get paid. I mean, you guys owe us. It wasn't much. I mean, we were only being paid about £4,000 a year, which is how many real? About 12,000.
£400.
4,000.
4,000 reais.
4,000.
4,000. 4.000 reais em ano.
So we were poor as dirt, and it sucked. So we demanded money, he paid us our money, and then we pretty much stopped getting paid again.
Tough times.
Yeah. So then we had a friend who worked for a company in London, and he said, hey guys, I've got this opportunity for us. There's a company in the northeast of England called Imagitech, and they want to set up a game development company down in London, and they want us to be all the people for it. So you guys get all your stuff, put it in the car, we'll go to London, we'll get a place to live, and we'll set up this company with them. So I'm like, all right. So we load up the car, we get in the car, and he's like, yeah, we've got to go to their offices first. We're going to have some kind of interviews. It's like, I thought this was a done deal, you know? No, we've got to interview with them.
Easy boy.
So we drive up over in the middle of the night. We arrive, park outside their offices at 7 o'clock in the morning, waiting for people to come in. And we all get interviewed, and I had on a stare into the face of death t-shirt, a Judge Death t-shirt. And that was the only reason they liked me. I found that out later. He's wearing a Judge Death t-shirt, he can't be that bad. So
He's an authentic guy.
yeah. Anyway, so it turned out that they wanted us to either live and work in the office or go away. So we were like, well, we'll just go away. We'll go and live in London. We found a place to live in London. We'll be our own game studio. We can do that. And there was me, a couple of programmers, an artist, a full game development team. And we had this house in London, and the house was owned by these gangsters. It was typical, like, lock, stock, and two smoking barrels gangsters. They're like, you pay the rent or you get concrete wellies. So over the course of the next 2-3 months, we tried making some games, we tried selling some games. Nobody really seemed to want what we were making. I managed to pick up a couple of freelance games, soundtrack contracts. Emlyn Hughes International Soccer on the Commodore 64, and it was a Phantasm one or something, I can't remember the name of it. We also made a full game called Battle Tanks, I think it was, or
Battle Tanks?
Battlefield, that was it, sorry.
A Battlefield.
But it wasn't a tank game, it was just a...
Not the EA Battlefield, the Commodore 64.
Commodore 64 Battlefield.
Another one.
Yeah. And we made the whole game in 3 days, and we got like £450 for it. We were, yes, this is it.
Now it's working.
Yeah, let's just make 50 more of these. But of course it didn't work out, and within a couple of months we were back to, we were actually down to living on dried cornflakes. Just not enough money to buy milk.
Tough one. And all those games, all those soundtracks you built, all those were programmed.
How were they programmed at the time? Well, I would just program.
Programmed the songs, all the songs.
I had a music player now because the guy that wrote Marauder had written me a music player.
Oh, I see.
So I could just type in my music data and give it to the programmer.
It's a visual mode to program, because programming in coding itself is very painful.
Oh yeah.
It was very painful in those days.
So, where was it? Oh yeah, we were in London. Okay, so we're living in London, and somebody was stealing our coffee, and I think we ended up putting rat poison in the coffee just to find out who was stealing it.
Holy crap!
We were poor. Come on, who steals from the poor, for goodness sake? There was me, 2 programmers, and an artist. So at that point, we're like, okay, what are our options? Because we either need to go home and live with our parents or find something to do. They're like, well, Imagitech were willing to hire us, so what if we talk to them? And I got nominated because I was the big mouth audio guy. So they said, okay, you go phone them and see what's going on. So,
but the same t-shirt. You put the same t-shirt. Nice t-shirt, you like me.
I just had to phone them at the time. So I had to walk down to the end of the street to use the payphone. And I called them Imagitech, and I was like, hey, we're the guys that you interviewed a few weeks ago. I'm the guy in the stare in the face of death t-shirt. And they're like, oh yeah, I remember you guys. I was like, is that job offer still open? Do you guys want to come and, do you want us to come and work for you? Because if you do, and if you send a van to London to come and pick us up, we will come and work for you. So the boss...
It's an opportunity, you see?
The boss of the company, he turned to his brother and he said, okay, take the van, go to London, pick these kids up. An important part of the story is he's like, yeah, we only need 1 programmer, 1 artist, and the musician. The other programmer, we don't need him. So when I got back to the house, I had to say, okay, there's good news and bad news is. Tom, you're not coming. Poor
but
Tom.
you choose it, the programmer?
No.
Or they chose it?
They knew which one they wanted.
Okay.
So the owner turned to his brother, says, go down to London in the van, pick them up, and put all the stuff in the van. If they do anything dodgy, or if they even look dodgy, throw them out and take all their stuff. And about 8 hours later, we ended up at Imagitech, and we moved into the office. We lived there for the next 6 months. That was when I started working on all these video games constantly, which eventually led to Top Gear.
And finally working. You told me Top Gear takes 5 days to the soundtrack.
Yeah. Well, okay. So while I was working at Imagitech, it's very complex to get music. I now had a music driver on the Commodore 64, but there was also the Sinclair Spectrum, the Amstrad, the Atari ST, the Commodore Amiga. All these computers. Imagitech were primarily a conversion house. So when they would come out with like a new Paperboy arcade machine, these companies would ask us to convert it or pay them to convert it to all the different platforms. And so that's a lot of different versions of music to have to write. So I came up with a way to unify the data structure across all the platforms except for the instruments. You had to recreate the instruments based on each machine's sound chip. And it worked great, and we could take a piece of music and convert it across several machines really quickly with like 2 or 3 days worth of work instead of 2 or 3 weeks, which was awesome. And we started contracting out to other companies. If they needed music, they would come to us because we had the music drivers. So I sort of became the prostitute and they were the pimp. And Gremlin Graphics, we had a great relationship with Gremlin Graphics because they were like 50 miles down the road in Sheffield. And they would call up every now and again and say, hey, we're working on a new game, new driving game like Lotus 2, or Top Gear. And in the case of Top Gear, it was, because it was on the Super Nintendo, it had a very special development kit. I think the development kit was pretty expensive. But the only way to create sounds for it was to use an even more expensive Sun workstation, which was like £25,000, which was...
Really?
Yeah, it's like way more than half the company was making put together. So we had no way to create sounds for it. So I remember going down to Gremlin and we looked at the Super Nintendo development kit. Oh God, I can't do anything with this, we've got no sounds. And so they had contacted Chemco and said, we got no sounds, we can't do anything with this. So Chemco sent us a floppy disk that has 10, 15 different sounds on it. And that was, when that came back in, they sent me off to Gremlin. And I got in the car and got driven down there. And I was told I've got a week to get the music done for this game. So then you sit down at the Super Nintendo development kit and look at the manual, and it's all Chinese. What am I going to do with this?
I asked it before, but I have to ask you for the guys. Did you learn anything of Chinese?
No, not a damn thing.
Unbelievable.
So the only thing we've got to do then is we'll look through all the folders on the development hard drive. I think it was a hard drive, I'm pretty sure it was a hard drive, probably 20 megabytes. But there was like a music folder or something, and in there was a music.s source code file. So I'll go in there and start poking around, we'll change some numbers, recompile it, see what happens. And sure enough, it works, it plays music. I'm like, yes, we're going here. So then I'd put in just note data for an arpeggio, just going up and down the scale, just to see how far up the scale will go before it'll break. And that's kind of how the arpeggios started on Top Gear. That Vegas piece was the first piece I wrote, and it used all 8 channels. Something that the other tunes don't do, because by the time I'd finished with the Vegas piece, it was now like Tuesday afternoon. I'm like, Tuesday, that's a day and a half to do one tune. They want a title tune and a bunch of in-game tunes. I'm not going to get finished till next Wednesday, and I want to go home because I'm staying with some programmer sleeping on his, living room floor. So that's how it just ended. We quickly used 4-channel music. We grabbed a couple of pieces from Lotus 1 and Lotus 2 and put them in.
when we were talking before, you told me the Top Gear doesn't make the same success out of the Brazil, and I told you here is a very huge success because those consoles licensed to Nintendo. When you figure out that, what happens to you? What do you feel about the so huge success about Top Gear soundtrack?
Well, the success, it was Nino Mega Driver. You guys know this guy? Yeah? He sent me an email and he's like, hey, I can play the Top Gear tune on guitar. I'm like, fuck off, no you can't. I said, no, I can't. He's like, dude, check this out, and he sends me a video of him playing it. I'm like, holy shit, he can play it on guitar. It's just incredible. He's like, it's so famous in Brazil. I'm like, really? You guys play games?
We were talking before. when first time I listened to Top Gear, I tried to do it on my keyboard, and no way I can do it that so fast. And this afternoon I was talking with him, and she told me that the sound was programmed from the scratch, and my childhood goes to the bottom. I want to kill myself.
Oh yeah, the frequency. Now, when I first heard Top Gear on YouTube and stuff, I'm like, that music's playing fast. Why is it playing fast? And then I realized it's because it's played on a 60 hertz system over here. I wrote it on a 50 hertz system, so it's running like 20% faster here than it should have been. So I'm sorry for all you guitarists that try to play it fast.
You know, Mega Driver plays it.
It's incredible. Now take a look at this here, this music.s. I found this in my files, and look at the date on that. 91! That's older than that's older than a lot of you guys, isn't it? Which is open with here? Open it with Notepad or something. You do that one. Yeah, it's all in Portuguese.
Notepad.
Check this bad boy out.
Oh my god. Is MIDI based, don't?
You can see Top Gear title, the different levels, the list of the channels for each one. Each channel has a list of patterns, I think. Has some instrument selections, envelope, the decay, the echo effect. When I first started messing with the source code, I found this magic number or command that I could type in, and it made the notes echo. And you have to remember, up to that point, there was no DSP effect on any computer chip. But this thing made an echo, which was just incredible. And it was so satisfying. So it was like,
now have an echo.
Yeah, it's like, how much echo can I add? So I typed in the maximum value it could, so you could echo, 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 echo. Yes, this is awesome! And then I showed the programmer, and he's like, look at that number there. That says how much memory you're using. That echo eats up tons of memory. You can have a tiny little echo.
Off the echo.
Oh, so it's only going to have a little echo.
And well, I was talking, you became so famous in Brazil that some people do something strange. And I asked you, did you authorize that? Because I will show you for everybody right now.
Oh, I'm sure you're dying to show.
I will show you, I keep it. People did this. It's the same soundtrack.
No arpeggio. And you didn't have the video with the hot women in it.
Even get the royalties of that.
We won the one with the hot women.
Oh. Damn. And but But this goes to the same subject. You got an audience of 3,000 people on video games live in the real.
Tommy got the audience of 3,000. I'm just a token guy on stage.
People went there to see you, you know.
It was incredible. Absolutely incredible. I mean, God. You gotta remember, I live in a little town in Ohio. I work all day in my little studio on my own. Once a week, I go play poker with some buddies. I go to the grocery store.
Like a normal guy.
Normal guy. The guys that play poker, the lawyer, the doctor, the judge. It's a small town. The optometrist. It's fun. But then to come down here and we can hear, when we did the show, Tommy's teasing the audience. He's like, this next song, you guys in Brazil have been asking me to play it for years. And people are like, Top Gear! Top Gear! I'm sitting backstage going, holy crap, that's incredible, you know? I couldn't imagine it. It's crazy. And then he built it up even more. He waited until the very, very end of the show to play it. He's been teasing the audience the whole time. Then he does a big 20-minute speech, building it. He's quite a good showman, you know. It was quite enjoyable watching him. Then the audience starts chanting, Barry, Barry. And I had to fight back the tears. It was incredibly moving. Just to walk out on stage to that.
It's very emotional experience.
It's indescribable. Yeah?
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Do you want to pull up? Because I can play music all night. I've got a captive audience here.
I told you before, for the students I've talked to you earlier, you are like Captain America for those peoples. They all cheering you up, and the people are so passionate about the sounds of those games, and the all independent production after that get the chip tune as a flag to carry together has your influence.
Well, you know what I think was very important with that game is that it was a multiplayer game. It was 2-player split screen, so people sat down with their brother or their dad or their cousin and they played video games together. I mean, it was a real bonding experience, and that's the story that I keep hearing from people. And as time goes by, you know, their dad or their brother or cousin will die or something, and it's like, oh, this music just reminds me of that good time that I used to spend with them. And it's so touching hearing those stories.
I think... oh, we have the video.
was super fun.
You know, the Horizon Chase was the first Brazilian game in Video Games Live.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
And I have to ask how the partnership with Aquarius became.
With Aquarius? They found me on Facebook, and it was Hamilton that emailed or messaged me. And he says, hey, we're the...
They called you, hey, we have a game!
From time to time, people will contact me and say, hey, I'm working on a game, you want to do the music for it? And I'm like, do you have a budget for the game? I mean, are you guys, is this something that's going to actually happen, or you just want me to write some music for free? 9 times out of 10.
Brazilian way.
Yeah, the Brazil way. So Hamilton messages me on Facebook, and he's like, hey, we're Brazilian's biggest game developer. And I'm like, they have game developers in Brazil?
Not only monkeys and tigers.
Yeah, I thought it was all monkeys and tigers. So he says we're gonna make a Top Gear type game. Would you be interested in doing the soundtrack for it? I'm like, are you guys a proper company? Like, how many people are there? Is this just you and your brother in a bedroom somewhere thinking, what's this? We'll see if we can get him to do a tune.
Do monkeys work here?
And from there, I got talking to marketing guy Israel Mendes, and he convinced me that there were actually a lot of people there, and they were all working on this game. And like, all right, that sounds like a lot of fun, because they were so excited to get in touch with me because they'd all played Top Gear. And to be honest, I didn't really think I was going to write much video game music that year. I mean, most of my work these days is doing toy audio and stuff, or editing dialogue for video games and stuff. I tend to, just not do that kind of stuff that often. And because they were so excited about it, I mean, I came so close to not doing the project, and it was because of their excitement and their passion. And every time, they messaged me and that, it was like, I should do this. This will be fun. Yeah. I think in the end of it, my email to Israel said, "Fuck it, why not? It'll be fun." Yeah, let's
Fuck
do
it.
Yeah,
Awesome.
And so then
It started.
I think within the next 24 hours, I'd already sent them a demo tune, and I got now. When you start working on an audio project, the hardest tunes to get approved are the first tune and the last tune. Because the first tune you're trying to get on the same page creatively, and the last tune just because you're shit out of ideas, you don't know what you've used up all your good ideas.
No, we can do another thing after that.
So I sent him the first demo tune, and I got a 2-word email back that just said, "Fucking awesome." It's like, yes, this is going to be great. Because sometimes that first demo, you'll go through 20 revisions, and you're just like, I don't want to do this project anymore, because...
And it became editor choice in 64 countries.
What's that, sorry?
64 countries in editor choice for Apple Store.
Yeah.
I think. It's a big hit. Unbelievable.
Incredible.
They even managed to program a marriage proposal for you.
That was so cool.
Very nice.
All right, I'll tell a story about that. So, I was 1987. I dated Karen, and she had to go to school, and she went away and broke my heart. I was devastated. And I kept writing music. I actually wrote her a song on the Commodore 64. It has lyrics, but none of you will ever fucking read them. So I got talking to her again 28 years later, and she was living in Scotland and I'm in America, so it was like, if we're going to do this, you're going to have to come to the States at some point. So I was trying to think of a cool way to propose to her. Now, when I worked at Atari, in games like California Speed and Rush 2, Rush 2049, we'd get the artists to put stupid shit on the billboards that zoom by you so fast, little Easter eggs, I think one of them in California Speed, it said something really bad. It's like sometimes God makes puppies and mummies disappear, and sometimes, just sometimes, I do. What? You got to work at a game company to get this sick humor. This is on a billboard that zooms by.
We are forming all those students with this type of humor. Very scary.
So I said to Israel, I says, hey, I'm planning on proposing to my girlfriend. Is there any chance you guys could put something on a billboard, just like, Karen, will you marry me? And stick it off to the edge of the track so you can drive off and park. He's like, oh, we can do better than that.
They are always saying, oh, those guys are crazy.
Yeah. And so they came up with this great way to draw the love heart on the screen. And by then I was writing, I took the Top Gear music and I was arranging it with a music box, and I did write quite a long story to go along with it, and they cut it down so the music gets a little sad in a place where it tells you about how Karen broke my heart. It's music box arrangement, that Top Gear theme. And so the tears were running down my cheeks when I'm writing this stuff, you know. You get passion, and that was a lot of fun to do.
Unbelievable. And everybody who has Horizon Chase one time at least did the heart movement to see your...
And they did the really cool thing. They sent the film crew.
It's the videos.
Yeah.
Two videos.
There's
part 1 and part 2 in YouTube.
2 videos on YouTube, yeah.
Yeah, telling the whole story.
Yeah. We had to trick her.
We have to trick her in a bakery.
That was cool.
I have to ask for Giovanni because he is one of our ex-students, and he managed to, in a moment, he managed to work with you and all the projects and stuff. How do you feel about all the project and stuff and the video games live right now and everything? Crap.
Yeah, well, you already know, it's all crazy. Bom, vou falar português. Que é justamente para ele não entender. Cara, esse foi...
He is mocking you in Portuguese.
Foi muita surpresa, assim. Bom, o Horizon Chase já foi uma surpresa imensa, né? E aí, o convite que o Barry teve do Tommy para fazer, do Tommy Talarico, né? Do cabeça, né? Do Videogames Live, do criador do Videogames Live, né? Foi bem surpresa para nós também. E aí o Barry comentou com ele, né? Ele disse, a gente pode fazer uma versão com a orquestra junto, né? Para o Videogames Live tocar no show da música do Top Gear. Só que eu queria incluir um medley, né? Top Gear e Horizon Chase. E aí foi evoluindo, o Tommy aceitou, né? A gente fez a música. E todo esse lance da apresentação, eu fui na apresentação do Rio de Janeiro, né? No sábado agora, no final de semana que passou. E aí o Tommy fez uma dinâmica ali, a gente viu no vídeo que ele chamou eu e o Felipe, que o Felipe é o game designer, o Dalmolin, que estava junto comigo. E tipo, foi muito surreal, assim. Não caiu a ficha ainda. Primeiro jogo brasileiro a estar no Videogames Live, e aí a gente era pra gente estar no backstage junto com o Barry, assistir a apresentação, claro, assistir o show e tal, e estar no backstage com o Barry e acompanhar, né, só isso e tal. Só que no meio do processo o Tommy teve uma ideia maluca no meio do caminho e disse, eu vou chamar vocês em vez de chamar o Barry, e aí a galera vai ficar pirada que todo mundo tá esperando o Barry, vai vir vocês, e a gente, não, beleza, participar da brincadeira, né. E no fim, quando ele chamou a gente, todo mundo levantou e aplaudiu também. Então, tipo, foi surreal demais, assim. Aí a gente começou a falar, explicando, a gente jogava Top Gear quando era criança, e a gente teve essa ideia lá na Kids de fazer um jogo homenageando os arcade racers e tal. E aí, e assim, do mesmo jeito, assim, em cima do palco ali, falando, e aí as pessoas abriam o Top Gear no celular e levantavam o celular, assim, e um monte de Top Gear, assim, com mão levantada, Top Gear não, Horizon Chase, rodando no celular, assim, e nós, putz, olha lá, o cara joga e tal. E aí, depois de toda essa dinâmica, ele chamou o Barry lá na apresentação, e aí foi aquilo ali do vídeo, né? A galera pirou, assim, foi 5 minutos de palmas de pé, Barry, constante, assim. E aquele ali foi o grande finale, assim, do show, né? Era a última coisa que ele tinha preparado, era a última música do setlist. E aí, depois no Meet and Greet também foi uma outra surpresa gigante, assim. Muita insanidade. Porque o Russell Bauer? Yeah. O Russell é o cara que é o maestro ali, né? O regente da orquestra. E ele é audio director da Blizzard. E ele...
Só gente pequena.
E aí ele escreveu todo o score do World of Warcraft, do Overwatch e outras coisas, participou do Diablo, enfim. E aí as pessoas vinham no Meet and Greet com material, artbook do Warcraft, pôster do Diablo, um monte de coisa para o Russell assinar, beleza. Aí material do Videogames Live, bandana do Videogames Live, boné do Videogames Live, camiseta, CD pro Tommy assinar, beleza. A Laura também, a guria que toca flauta, né, que participa, toca, se veste de Link e tal, também. Todo mundo dando autógrafo e tal, na mesa do Meet and Greet. Depois o Barry recebia as coisas do Top Gear, do Horizon Chase, dava autógrafo e tal. E aí depois tinha outras 2 cadeiras, do Felipe Dalmolin e do Giovanni Webster. E aí a galera passava e dizia: aí, cara, parabéns e tal, vocês são uma inspiração pra gente, não sei o quê. Pô, eu tô começando a fazer jogos na faculdade, parará. E tipo, foram muitos incontáveis parabéns e autógrafos em CDs do Horizon Chase, tipo, cara, como é que eu ia fazer isso na minha vida, sabe? E tipo, tá ali na mesa, assim, junto com Tommy, Barry, Russell, Laura e toda a produção do Videogames Live, os caras que participam da equipe também, tem um cara que cuida do vídeo. Então todo mundo foi muito parceiro com a gente, assim, 100% do tempo.
Legal. Vamos abrir para pergunta. Let's open to people ask something. Faz a mão. Eu dou esse. Porque agora eu não falo mais nada. Now I will remain silent. Levanta o braço aí, pessoal. Pode perguntar em português também.
No, I can speak English.
Oh,
okay, so actually, I got 2 questions, if that's okay.
Sure, fire away.
The first one, so you said you started like in the 80s, like a lot of years ago.
Yeah.
And we know that technology goes faster and faster and gets updated every day. And how did you manage to keep up with the technology and not get overwhelmed by it?
Well, when I was working at Imagitech, I mean, every time a new system came out, we would start developing for it, like the SNES and the Genesis. Then PC development started to happen, the AdLib sound card, the Roland MT32, which is an amazing piece of gear. You should hear some of the stuff on that from like 1991. I mean, this was an incredible sound card, but it also cost like, I think it was like $800. And it couldn't play any digitized sound. So games like the first Wing Commander or Wing Commander 2, in order to have good music and speech in the game, you had to spend $1,000 on sound cards just to hear sound, which obviously nobody would do now. But at the time, we were so excited to have this control over synthesized sound. Games like TFX, Inferno. I did a ton of MT, because we were the only developer at Magitech doing MT32 music at the time. Every company that was releasing a game on the PC said, hey, will you guys do our music? And like, yeah. Or, yeah, Barry will do it. So from there, when I moved across to Ocean Software, where I got to work with my favourite band, Alien Sex Fiend. I got them involved in a soundtrack for a game called Inferno. We got to write the whole soundtrack together. But that was for CD-ROM. And at the time, we didn't know if CD-ROM was going to take off. People were going to buy CDs. It was a new format. Music just came out on it. And they did. And from there, everything after CD has been pretty much the same technology for the last...
Yeah, it's really changed everything.
20 years it's been the same. Hasn't been a huge... There's been some surround stuff.
All right, so the last years were okay. You didn't have to learn a lot more.
Well, you have to. The tools are constantly evolving and changing. Even then, you know, the systems like the N64 came out, the PlayStation. I mean, that was when I left Atari. It was just when I think the Xbox 360 had shipped, and I don't know. I didn't keep up on the tools for that stuff.
All right. So my second question, you just answered. It was about what kind of music do you like personally to hear? And you say your favorite band was
Alien Sex Fiend.
Yeah.
I like a lot of bands like Alien Sex Fiend, Sisters of Mercy, Bauhaus, The Cure. There's some pictures of me on Facebook somewhere. I don't think I've got them here where I had mohawk and stuff. That was a cool look, boss. I used to have a lot of hair. That's why they tell you don't use hairspray on your hair, kids, because this is what happens.
All right, thank you very much and congrats.
Thanks, man.
Nossa, vamos tão rápido que...
Well, I have 2 questions and a half. Did you think about making music for other kind of media like movies or whatever?
Actually, a couple of times over the years, Brazilian filmmakers have contacted me. There was a great one, and he actually sent me the finished DVD. It's a short film about 2 guys who have a dead hooker in the bathroom, in the bathtub. She's lying there dead, and they're sitting playing video games, and of course they're playing Top Gear. It's quite a good little film, but they sent me the DVD up, and that was the first time I'd ever seen that. That was fantastic. Another time, the film developer, a filmmaker in Finland there was a horrible mass shooting at a school, and he created this film where that told the story of it, but he used a piece of my music that plays the whole time, and it's very, very disturbing.
Unbelievable. What is your favorite soundtrack of the stuff you made, and what's the favorite soundtrack of the stuff you didn't make?
The stuff that I made, I gotta say, I mean, I like games like TFX because at the time when I was working at Ocean, I was only 21, 22, maybe 23 by then. And I finally felt like I had become a composer. I actually have a piece of music with me. It's unreleased from a game from 1991, I think it was. And it's Epic. Epic was one of the first games that used full 3D graphics, and it was a flying around space shooting game, kind of like Wing Commander, but Wing Commander's graphics all used rotation thing. Epic was based on full 3D. It was really cool technology. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah.
It's totally over the top. It was because I felt I was a composer at last. I want to write something worth a damn, and it sounds like Wagner gone wrong. That one. It's supposed to be minefields. You're flying your spaceship through these minefields. Choirs and cymbal crashes. All use synthesizers. that's that. I won't make you listen to the whole thing, but. But that was like 1991, and 6 years before we had beeps on Manic Miner. I mean, that's how quickly the technology changed. We went from 0 to 100 at breakneck speed.
We had an MP3 breakthrough and all the stuff changed. It's very impressive. Everybody? Here? First here, after here.
Bom, eu ouvi falar que a banda inglesa, a Muse, fez uma banda inspirada no Top Gear. Eles chegaram a falar contigo? Como é que foi o negócio? Como funcionou?
They asked about the Muse band. They say the Muse was inspired by Top Gear. They talked to you about it or something?
No, they never talked to me about it. I think I read the interview. They said that they'd been playing a video game at the time. They don't remember which one, but that chord progression is pretty similar. And I mean, there's only so many notes on a keyboard. It was a nice piece of music. I liked it. I wish they paid me royalties.
Another one. Did you
There's the
show the guys Rihanna and your soundtrack? Rihanna is a copycat. That's the truth.
Yeah, while I was at Ocean, I wrote a piece of music for Lethal Weapon. I don't know, might be Lethal Weapon or Lethal Weapon 3 on the Amiga.
3. I didn't play the Little Weapon 1 and I remember that song.
So there's a video on YouTube that shows a music forensic comparison of the two pieces. Fuck.
I wanna take you away, let's escape into the music. DJ, let it play.
I think it shows her melody first.
I wanna take you away.
Oh no, it's the Lethal Weapon 3 one.
She didn't pay you royalties even.
Would I be here if I had Rihanna on it?
Holy crap.
Actually, you know what? I would. Yeah, but you just
Maybe some Russian mix the two soundtracks and releases of Rihanna mega mix.
I did start on a remix of her tune with her song with my music and stuff.
Nice.
Pretty damn low.
Good evening, Barry. I have a question. How is your method to compose? You play the game first, or you're playing and thinking about the song that fits in that game?
Usually it's the emotion I want to get across. With the case of Horizon Chase, they really didn't send me much. I got a couple of pictures and I might have had like a 7-second video of the game. They were really secretive with it. No, you didn't.
The mail.
It was a video.
It's a video.
Yeah. It was a 10-second video or 7-second
The
video.
video game was stolen by mail. You'll never receive it.
Sent by mail.
I'm pretty sure by then we didn't really have a game. I think it was pretty early when we talked to you.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there was enough of a demo there where I could get a feel for it. And I mean, obviously the end product was amazing, looked beautiful. But it was their excitement and their passion and that feel of speed. So I'm like, okay, well, let's go back and see how fast the Top Gear tunes were. And they're like 155 BPM. So let's start there.
So you just watch just a couple of videos and get the feeling about it?
Yeah, and then I went back and the chord progression for the Vegas piece is where I started on the Top Gear title, because that was the most famous one. So I thought, okay, I'll take that chord progression and I'll work with it. I'll add new melody and kind of fanfare. Because I'm getting all excited. I'm a composer. I'm like, yes, these guys want me to compose. I'm excited. This is my return of the king moment, you know, coming back.
Thank you.
Mr. Gabriel.
My question is, if you have any tips, like, for you it must have been really hard, like, being the groundbreaking guy, 15 years old, oh, I want to be
some composer for video games with no background in music and that kind of stuff. So my question is if you have any tips for us in Brazil, like the new developers, I want to make games. If you have any tips like on passion or maybe will or secret dreams,
Whatever makes it. I think I had a moment today where we're on the way here in the car, and the guys that were driving us put the soundtrack on, and I hadn't listened to the soundtrack for Horizon Chase in over a year now or something. And as we're listening to it, I'm thinking, I'm remembering how excited I was to write these tunes and how happy it made me. And I think if you can find a job that gives you that happiness and joy, and that's absolutely what you should go for in life. You know, I mean, if it's programming, if it's art, if it's PR, if it's making a deal, a lot of people are addicted to that, making a deal, feeling like they, got one over on somebody else, made some money, it's very addicting, and it is addicting. It's like a drug. You get that serotonin release or whatever it is. So definitely do what your passion is. And don't give up. Never take no for an answer.
That's what I wanted to hear. Thanks.
But always try to cover your ass, because it's hard, so hard when you're poor, you can't.
And please don't call John Carmack. I want to be a game designer.
Queria saber das influências musicais no trabalho dele, como é que funciona isso, e os trabalhos mais recentes, assim, como é que funciona a influência musical, assim, do meio, né, da música para o trabalho dele.
They want to know your musical influence, what you listen, kind of answer that.
Sure.
And your recent work besides Horizon Chase, what do you listen, what the music influence at the medium?
Well, musical influences. I mean, obviously, the way I like to compose is very structured. Although Horizon Chase is a bit chaotic in places because I was kind of freaking out a bit, too excited. It's like, dial it back a bit there. So obviously, peak composers like Rob Hubbard and Martin Galway, they were huge influences. I listen to a lot of music, all different kind of styles. On different projects, you'll hear influences. I was talking to someone earlier about Rush 2 and Rush 2049. Those were really heavily influenced by a band called Underworld, who are a fantastic electronica band, almost like punk electronica. I love that stuff. And there's times different projects have different moods and emotions you want to get across, and it's music that has that emotion that influences you. You know, if you want to write sad tunes, you're going to go listen to some sad ballads, and that's going to influence where you should go. Hey, how are you? I could play some toy music. Want to hear some toy music? What have you done?
Oh yeah, you worked in toy industry.
Oh yeah, I won a gang award about 15 years ago. This, yeah, if you join gang and stuff, you get eligible to win awards, and I won one. Oh God. Oh McDonald. Oh yeah. So yeah, when I was working at Atari, Atari Games. Now this is the original Atari. This is a company that had been there for people that worked there had been there for like 30 years. They made all these great arcade games. Ed Logg worked there. He wrote Asteroids, for God's sake. I played Asteroids when I was growing up, and then finally I'm working with a guy. Mind blowing. But what was I talking about? I got the sidetracked.
The toys industry.
Yeah, toys. Oh yeah, the gang awards. No big deal. So let me tell you that. I should tell you the story about how I got the job at Fisher Price, because nobody expects to write music for toys.
Did you work with Fisher Price?
At Fisher Price Toys.
Awesome.
So at Atari, they were owned by Midway Games, and every time we started creating a new project, some new intellectual property, we would have to, in order to release it under the Atari Games brand, we had to make an arcade game first. There's a whole messy bunch of licensing laws that have been through. Atari's been bought and sold so many times. It was a complete and utter mess. So we were Atari Games, which was different from Atari, which was bought by Infogrames. So it was two Ataris. So Midway Games owned Atari, and they wanted to close the place down. We were an expensive operation out in Silicon Valley, and they were cheaper in Chicago. So my boss at Fisher-Price, he knew I was thinking of leaving because Midway kept cancelled the games, and that's, I mean, you can spot a sinking ship a mile away, you know, when the game company's going downhill. So I told him I was going to leave, or I was thinking of leaving. I told him to keep his ears out for any jobs coming up or that. And he went to E3 at a trade fair, a game convention. And he sat down to have a beer, and some guy sat down next to him, and they're like, "Hey, how you doing?" "Oh, I'm fine, how are you?" "So what do you do?" "I want to write music." He's like, "Really? We're looking for an audio guy." Right. And he says, "Actually, I don't want to be your audio guy, but I know somebody that might be interested." And he came back and he handed me this business card from someone at Fisher-Price. And so I applied and got interviewed and got the job. And awesome. But in the toys, the technology used in toys in 2000 was very similar to the technology we'd had in games in 1992, 8 years earlier.
That was sheet processing.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So I'll play you my award-winning Pixter title tune. I think this is only 2 notes at any one time. It's epic.
Where I can buy this toy? Because I like it. Where I can buy this toy?
eBay.
eBay. I will find it.
So you hear all that stuff going on, offbeats and stuff, that's just to throw you, it's only 2 notes. And one of the American composers I worked with, he was like, "How the fuck did you do that?" And he printed out the MIDI file. And of course the MIDI file's all just notes, because it's all patch changes, they're all playing the same note pretty much. And he's like, "What is playing what here? Crap!"
Mais alguma pergunta, pessoal? Ali no meio.
I have 2 questions. The first one is, what programming language did you use to compose the music for the Top Gear?
Well, it was just an assembly. It was a data file. Well, it was basically a data file. I wasn't going to screw with the code. The code had been written by somebody at Nintendo, and I found the data file. Once I found that, I could change it.
Mm-hmm. And when you were composing music, did you use to have like an external thing or instrument that you could transfer the notes to the PC?
Yeah, I've got a Korg Trinity keyboard that I've used to work out rough ideas on our chord progressions, but I don't play anything live in, I just sequence everything. I use a program called Renoise, which is a fantastic tracker program. I love it. It's so easy, so fast to use compared to Nuendo or Cakewalk or that shit. Those things take ages.
Thank you.
Renoise is awesome. It's well worth it, and it's only like $70. It was dirt cheap.
2 last questions.
You can ask as many questions as you want, man.
I know.
I ain't going anywhere.
I have so many questions. Let me give you here the place after.
Hi.
Hi.
You said you took 5 days for making the soundtrack for Top Gear, right?
Yeah.
And nowadays, what's the time frame for with the new technology, and how many hours do you spend making a soundtrack? Obviously, it depends on the project, but
an estimation, and when you start a project, do you have an estimation of how much hours or how much days you have to spend on it?
Yeah, I mean, when I do toy work, I know exactly how long it's going to take me, roughly, before revisions, because there's always revisions. People change this, change that. But with game stuff, with the Horizon Chase, I think I was like, you know what, I'll spend a month on this, guys, and I'll get as many tunes done as I can. But then they were getting more excited every time I wrote a piece of music, and I was like, oh man, I really need to pay attention to this. I can't just bang out some shit and I'll be good, you know, I really got to do a good job with this. And then they started doing all the PR stuff, and I'm like, oh crap, everybody's going to be watching this. I'm going to have to mix it properly. Maybe I should send it to a mastering studio or something. And it snowballed, and I think I ended up spending 3 months cranking it all out. 3 or 4, yeah. I think it was 4 months. The mixes took forever. It was so hard to mix stuff. So loud. I actually had a couple of other things to show you. Remember I was talking about playing on the different platforms here? I'll play you the same piece of music from the different computers, so you can hear the difference. So like the Commodore Amiga, this is the game called Utopia. I'll play you the first few seconds of each. Has nice samples, so there's a whole bunch of different samples in the background, it cycles. And then there's the Atari ST. Super Nintendo. We couldn't pitch bend the phasing sound in the background. And then the inputs. Oh, yeah. Will it play that? Nope. That's the MT32. This is 1991. Huge color difference. You get the idea. I'll play music all night. I love a captive audience. You guys want to see the wedding pictures? A beautiful way. I had a whole bunch of guys. I told my American friends, I was like, look, we just want to have a nice, quiet ceremony. And they're like, but we could wear kilts. We could all wear kilts. And so, sure enough, it snowballed. Oops. Oh, where am I? And boom, you get 20 odd Americans in kilts. This mouse is dying. And of course they all get a knife that comes with it, so they're like, yeah, we have knives, we can cut each other. They will love that I have showed you that. So yeah, what else should we talk about?
Hi Barry.
Hi.
You told us how you kind of, when you started composing, you got the hang of it while doing it, learned how to compose by doing it. So I'd like to know if eventually you got any like formal music education, or how did that happen to you? How did you enhance your musical and composing skills?
That's a good question. I mean, if you listen to my early tunes, they're rotten, they're really bad. But I managed to get the job and as a composer, and over time, if you listen to the tunes, they start to get a little bit better each time. And it wasn't until there was a period of 1 year, I think, where Gremlin released a whole bunch of really good Amiga games like Lotus, Harlequin, Space Crusade, Utopia. All these were all #1 games. They're all really good games. And I just got lucky. I managed to get good or better at composing. I'm still not a very good composer. Like Russell Bauer, Jesus Christ, he's a composer. He's amazing, that guy. But I just kind of stumbled my way through, and people were like, you know what, that one's not bad. So as long as you write music that's not bad. I mean, if you take any piece of music and ask everybody in the room what they think of it, the answers are usually going to be the same. You know, some people think it's okay, some people think it's kind of rubbish, some people think it's really good, some people think it's really bad, and then there'll be one person that thinks it's the best thing ever and one person that thinks it's the worst thing ever. And that's pretty much the same for any piece of music, and all you can hope is that you try and skew the numbers a little bit and you can do that by just being careful when you write your music.
I see, thank you.
Well, let me back to the stage. Barry,
Yes.
we're about to ending here, and mainly reason because some students have to leave too. I need to thank you so much for coming here and talk to the people.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to come here.